Here at MacGyver's Workshop, we build, fix, or re-engineer just about anything. You never know what we'll be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. Hi there. Welcome to another episode of MacGyver's Workshop. You know, like I said in the intro, you never know what we'll be working on next. Here in the last few episodes, you've seen us tear down BMWs and, you know, our Ford and Power Stroke diesel, work on all that sort of thing. Well, today, okay, we're going to take you back, wiki old school, just a little bit, with a good old-fashioned Murray push mower. A friend of mine at work, you know, we've been talking over the last couple days, had some issues and stuff, and I'm like, you know, yeah, bring it over, no problem, you know, and they're like, yeah, well, you know, it never happens. Well, finally it happened. She brought it over. So we're going to play around with it today. We're going to go over everything that it needs and, you know, tweak it up and sharpen the blade, balance it and all that. So pay attention, and amongst all the noise from the trains, you can learn a little bit on how to take care of your push mower. So stay tuned. Okay, so what we've got here basically is the user has been complaining this bolt keeps coming loose and vibrating loose as she's mowing. And also noticed as I'm in here, I see that this bracket's bent back and this bolt's gone out of here. Now what this will do is this will affect the governor that regulates the speed of the engine. She said it started cutting really good after that happened. Well, I guess so, because it's probably turning about 5,600 RPM right about there, which is not really healthy for the motor, but I'm sure it cut the hell out of some grass. So anyway, let's move right along. We're going to pop the air cleaner off here and get a better look at what's all going on down in here. And then we'll get all her little problems resolved, and then we'll start doing some maintenance here so that it will last her a good old long time. Alright, so we'll start by popping the old air cleaner off here. Oh, looks like that screw's a little bent, ain't it? Wow! Alright, let's see how we do here. It's alright, that's not too bad. Only moderately filthy, but we'll take care of that for it too. Yeah, that ain't too bad. Now, if you look down in there, you're going to see a bunch of spooge and dirt. Okay, that's really usually ends up being bad juju, because that basically is bad dirt getting past the air filter. But we'll take care of that. Now, let's have a look here at the throttle, okay, which I guess Ray Charles could see that's kind of hosed up. But anyway, you've got basically a fan blade in here, okay, which is pivots in there, and the wind that comes off the flywheel has a bunch of little fan blades on it and presses against this, which works to close the throttle. Okay, but against this spring tension, okay, it regulates it, and should regulate it at no more than 3,600 RPM max. Well, when this thing's kind of all, you know, tweaked out like that, it just holds the throttle wide open, and, you know, eventually probably would the engine would come apart. But we're going to see if we can't kind of work on this and help getting it to run right here. We're also missing, looks like a little bit of other regulator spring here, which to me I've always wondered, because it's kind of useless compared to this big old honking spring here, but they work together to get the job done. The end of the spring is broken, but we'll fix that. So now, first thing we're going to have to do is fix what you come here for, and that's make sure that stays tight. But before that's ever going to stay tight, no matter how many washers or bits of Loctite we put on there, we need to reinforce it by having this bolt in here as well. So, alright, so we're going to get this, we'll knock out this bolt deal here first. Now see, part of the problem is this one bolt holds this whole shooting match together. It holds the carburetor on there in place, but it also needs this extra support here in addition to that bolt, which is why that bolt is always coming loose. So let's just give it a little spritz of nasty stuff here to clean it. Just put a little, squeeze a little dab of Loctite on there. Now that's not going to lock the bolt in there permanently. You'll be able to get it out with a ratchet, but it will help prevent it from backing out on its own without some serious help. And then there's one last little dolly here. We'll put this there. I set that aside for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We were talking about it this afternoon. Now we'll get this puppy started in here. We don't want to necessarily lock that in place just yet. This is already dry, didn't have any gook on it, so let's keep plenty of those around. And then what we do is we're going to have to coerce this. Notice it's pulling this bracket back into place where it belongs, and it's relieving some of that spring tension a little bit, which will lower the maximum RPM of the mower, which you're going to be mad about because it's not going to rip through 4-foot tall grass anymore, but it's not going to chuck the back end of the crankshaft out on your foot either.
Oh, yeah.
And then the hook back on this. See that? And then the little hook back on there. Hook that back up here. So that all that will work nice and spiffy like it should. We'll probably have to squeeze that and tighten it up so it'll hold, because you don't have a throttle lever, you just have this little damn here. So alright, so now we have that locked in place, and we can snug this up the rest of the way. So, what you came here for is done, fixed. Now, we got some other things to do here, but we'll get into that here in just a few minutes. But right now, first thing we need to do is we need to clean this thing out because it's epic. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is get my old BMW valve cover grommets out of here that don't belong there. I always keep a perfectly clean, tidy shop. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to wash all the gook out of this. And this is just an old school style oil soaked foam air filter. So what we're going to do is we're just going to wash it out here in our parts washer. Really, that's all you have to do is just give it a couple of squeezes and squeeze it out. And then I will take care of that in a minute. Get all the nasty dirt crap that's stuck to this and this. Nozzle. squirt of WD-40 in there, squeeze it through, and voila. Takes care of the air filter. It's all ready to go back in there. Alright, so first thing we'll do is we'll wipe some of the gook out of this carburetor here. And then we'll put our air filter back on here all nice and pretty. Alright, so let's get this spark plug out of here and see what this thing looks like. Yeah, it looks pretty good shape. We ain't got to do much of that at all. We'll give it a good blast with some carbon choke cleaner there. Alright, so this spark plug looked pretty good. I went ahead and cleaned it with some carbon choke cleaner, and the good rule of thumb for these little lawnmower spark plugs is if you take one of your smaller tipped screwdrivers like that and just go in there just so you can get the tip in there. That's the perfect gap for lawnmower spark plug. And we'll put that back in yonder there and tighten this thing back up. Doesn't have to be tight as shit and then some. Just snug it, because it is aluminum that you're screwing into. And that's that. So we're going to find a bolt to replace the one we borrowed here for this. Okay, so we found a nice donor bolt to replace the one I borrowed for this here. I know, all my friends out there are probably like, you're putting way too much effort into that Murray lawnmower, but you know what? Sometimes that's what all the people have, and there ain't nothing wrong with it. It'll give her good service, and as long as they know people like us. So, now what we'll do is we'll break out the Chuck Norris tools and get that bolt off. Well, you've been doing all kind of stuff there, ain't you there, Tina?
I told you I got that finger stuck in there, man. I didn't even see that.
Hot. This will do it every time. Make sure it's not a lefty. Nope. Gee. I wonder when the last time that came off there, huh? Okay. So that blade's actually not in as bad a shape as I expected it to be. But what you want to do is it has to be in balance, okay? So you knock off all the major grass spooge that's stuck to it. You don't have to be uber pretty with it. But what we're going to do is we're going to sharpen it and then we're going to balance it. Now I'm probably going to start a flame war out there amongst all the do-it-yourselfers like myself, but you really don't want this to be razor sharp, okay? When this joker's humming around at 3,600 RPM, okay, it will slice anything clean off. So you're only wasting metal and time by putting a razor sharp edge on it, which is going to be worn off in about 2.5 seconds of mowing. So all you got to do is just get it, where you can, you feel a little bit of sharpness there, but you don't want it slicing your finger open. It just doesn't have to be that way. A little heavy. Not quite as bad. Alright, let's cut all these little strings and stuff off of here. We don't want them tearing up the wool seal on the bottom of the mower, on the bottom of the engine. Place this bad boy back on here. And that is actually a spring-loaded washer. If you ever lose that, you're screwed. You want to buy a new piece because you don't ever want to put that back together without that spring-loaded washer in there. Because you definitely don't want this thing coming out of there like a boomerang on you. Just saying. And yes, I have seen it happen.
That'd be too.
Alright. I'm going to take care of that. Put this thing down on the ground. And check the hole. Only took them 50 years to decide to put a dipstick on these things. Alright, between there and there is where you want your oil level, not up here. And on this particular one, you just snug it down and then unscrew it. Okay, a wee bit low there. Don't take much. Alright, dead in the middle. That's good. Actually, it's a tiny bit higher in the middle, but that's good. You got it thereabouts anyway. You don't want to overfill it, because then it'll get exceptionally nasty. Okay, so we've got it about as good as it's going to get. It really needs a blade, and yeah, the owner knows that. She's going to get one, and the engine has a pretty excessive amount of blow-by to it, but you know, for the $25 or whatever you buy these things for, you know, you get 1 or 2 seasons out of it, you know, you're good to go. So she's not complaining, and at least now she doesn't have to worry about the gas tank falling off and the, you know, crankshaft coming out the back of it at her while she's pushing it. So you know, another job done. So stay tuned, and as always, feel free to comment, and please subscribe. And also, you can always email us at MacGyver'sWorkshop@gmail.com. See ya.